everybody. Welcome to the Talent Show. I'm your host, Tom Alexander. Today, we are spotlighting Kristin Pozen. Now, by day, Kristin is practice leader and senior recruiter for the Duffy Group. The Duffy Group's a global recruitment firm that works with corporations to help them find the right talent. But after work, Kristin bakes and sells a delicious assortment of cookies under the name Peekaboo Cookies. Now, if you're on a low sugar diet or maybe have some health restrictions that prevent you from partaking in these delectable desserts, well, now's the time to find another suitable podcast, I guess we could say. For those of you whose knees just grow weak at the first whiff of moist home-baked cookies, grab yourself a glass of milk. You're going to need it. We'll be back with Kristin Pozen right after these words. We are back on the Talent Show. I'm Tom Alexander, and my guest is Kristin Pozen. Kristin, welcome.
Hey, Tom. Glad to be here. Thank you.
It is great to see you, great to hear your voice, and I got to tell you, it's been a couple of years. You joined us on a previous podcast we had some time back, and all I could tell you is I love cookies. I have to watch how many I eat, but I love them. If you would, describe for our listeners, our viewers, what it is you do when you leave work and manage your thriving cookie empire, or to put it another way, what is it that you enjoy doing best when you're in Peekaboo Cookies mode?
Peekaboo Cookies mode. Well, when I make cookies at home, it is time for me just to kind of zone out, use the other side of my brain, be a little more creative. I have over 400 different cookie cutters, and over the course of a year, I'll probably make 200 different designs for my clients. So it's lots of fun.
Yeah, it sure sounds it. And in the process of making these things, it's like when I do cooking, I like to cook. I'm not a baker, but I'm a cooker. I like to do what I call try a core sample, and what that is if I'm making, let's say, meatballs or something, I just take a little one, press it out kind of flat into a little tiny patty just to make sure everything is tasting just right. Try that. It's like, yeah, okay, that's great. And most of the time, I nail it on the first try, but gotta double check, So I'm just wondering if that's something you do when you're in the process. We all have kind of put our finger in the pot for a little cookie dough, or in the bowl for some cookie dough.
Oh yeah, either me or my daughter. She'll come by and be like, "Oh, can I have just a little smidge of cookie dough, or the icing?" And actually,
Yes.
you really should taste it, because you could have forgotten an ingredient, and if you tasted it, you'd know, just like your core sample.
Yes, the core sample. Now, baking delicious cookies is not something everyone can do, whether you call it an acquired skill or a knack. I mean, I'd call it a talent. When did you discover that you had this talent? Well, take us to those first signs as far back as you might be able to remember.
Both of my grandmothers were amazing bakers. They grew up on, were raised on a farm. They raised my mom and my dad on a farm. And so they had to make everything from scratch. So just spending time with them, learning how to make pies, cinnamon rolls, cookies, cakes. That's when I knew I loved it. And when I was, I think, about 10, my mom bought me my first cookbook that was my own, and I still use that on occasion.
You have sort of, did you have to like jot these recipes down, or is it something that just kind of through osmosis you retained it in a certain part of your brain? It's like, I got this.
I think, well, through osmosis, it's a lot of it's technique, right? Like, how do you roll out a cinnamon roll? And
Yeah.
it has to be a certain way. How do you measure flour? It has to be a certain way. So it's more about like the techniques, I think, that I learned through my grandmothers. But I do have a few of their recipes that people have tried to write down over the years. And I do, they don't always turn out the same way that grandma made them, but I
Yeah.
try my best.
Yeah, that's interesting because I grew up in a family that so much of it was by eye. Now I know baking is very different because there's a lot of measurements with
Mhm.
baking. But you'd season something and they call it, season to taste, right?
Right.
And it's a, salt and pepper to taste, whatever it is. Baking cookies, I think it's more of a formula, more of a science, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's specific steps you have to follow. If you,
Yeah.
do one before the other, it could totally be a flop and not turn out the way you want it to.
Where do you find the inspiration for these new recipes, for instance? Like, do you concoct them in your head and say, I wonder if I just add a little cinnamon to this or something like that? How does that happen?
I think a lot of it's just kind of what's trending. I watch lots of cooking videos and baking videos on Instagram, and bore my husband to death with learning about new techniques, new ingredients. I think the latest thing that's really popular is this chocolate out of Saudi Arabia that has pistachio in it. So I think that's the next thing I'm going to try.
Ah, wonderful. Yeah, I'm a big fan of pistachios. And there are two places that I know of in the world that are real famous for their pistachios. And there's a little region of Iran that has amazing pistachios, and the island of Aegina, which is just off Athens
Oh,
in Greece. And that's my background. And I get these bags of pistachios from the island of Aegina, and they are something to behold. They just taste great. They're smaller than what the pistachios we get here in the United States, like the California ones, but they're bursting with flavor. It's a whole other experience. So you caught my attention when you said pistachios. I
well,
think I would love that. I would love
I'm going
that.
to seek those out.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll trade you some cookies for some pistachios. How's that?
I all right, that we got a deal. It's funny because we have a lot of folks, different folks here on the talent show, and we always do these virtually via Zoom. But I got to tell you, this is the one time I really wish you were in studio here so we could, get the full sampler plate going. That would be great. Maybe next time, Chris. Maybe next time, Kristen. We'll try to do that. My guest is Kristin Pozen, and she's from the Duffy Group, but she also is the head chef, head cook, and bottle washer, as they say, at Peekaboo Cookies. And boy, I'll tell you, it is something to behold to see these. We did try them at one point a couple of years back. You'd sent some along, and boy, were they wonderful. We're going to find out a whole lot more about Kristin and her work with cookies and also what she does at the Duffy Group. This is the Talent Show. My guest is Kristin Pozen. My name's Tom Alexander. Stay tuned, back in just a moment. Back on the Talent Show, along with Kristin Pozen, my guest. My name's Tom Alexander. And Kristin, how does this talent that you have for making cookies and great ones for that matter inform your work as a recruiter? Is there anything you take away from it that helps you be more effective at what you do with your day job?
Well, what's nice since I'm a recruiter by day, a baker by night, I always say. So in the solitude of the late nights, sometimes early mornings, I've been up till 1, 2 in the morning making orders. It gives me a lot of time to think. So I will oftentimes think about maybe a tricky search that we have going for a C-suite position, that's in a unique industry. And it does give me that solitude to really think about my day job as well.
Yeah, and you've been in the HR recruitment space for a number of years. What would you say are the two or three significant skills or knowledge that you have acquired over over these last few years?
So prior to being an executive recruiter, I was a CHRO, so the overarching HR field. but didn't spend a lot of time in recruiting. And the way we do recruiting here at Duffy Group is different. It's called informed search. So we really go out and reach passive candidates, and it's a totally different technique than I did in the corporate world in terms of recruiting, but it makes a lot of sense. So just learning that new technique, being able to basically pitch a position to somebody who's not even looking for a job, but it's already successful at a job, has
Yeah.
made us very successful as a company. And we build our business based on existing clients giving us referrals and repeat business.
Do you have any mentors or coaches who've helped you along the way?
Oh, certainly. You know, there's a in the HR world, John Getler, he was an amazing coach when I first was getting started in my first leadership role in HR, in banking. And we grew that bank from 50 employees to 1,800 employees within 4 years. Mind you, that was during the subprime lending boom. So we were very busy, but then dropped off quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and then certainly Kathleen here at Duffy Group, Melissa, they've been amazing mentors, teaching me their side of the business, business development, how to attract new clients and really take ownership of this model and be able to communicate it and sell it to our clients.
yeah, yeah. My guest is Kristin Pozen from the Duffy Group and from Peekaboo Cookies. And if those things sound kind of polar opposite, maybe they are, but they sort of help each other. They kind of live hand in glove. And it's interesting when you think about it because uh, a lot of folks that we've had here on the talent show, you try to put two and two together. And it's like, wow, how does his or her day job really affect what that talent might be or side hustle or passion or whatever it is? And everybody really draws in a very interesting parallel and no different here. You're able to sort of manage and get these two worlds, very different worlds, to coexist.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's funny how sometimes they overlap too. For example, I have two cookie clients that have been cookie clients for years, and they both are business owners or their husbands own a business. And I've been able to convert them to the recruiting side. So one owns an engineering company and one owns a architecture firm. And so we've done successful searches for each of them.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. So sometimes I guess things are revealed unexpectedly. It's like folks can come along and say, "Oh, I can't do that. That's not even," and then they discover suddenly they've got this talent they didn't know they had, or they develop a passion, I guess, for something that they didn't think too much about prior to discovering this. And cookies is not a bad discovery. I should mention that. I've always put off baking. I love to cook, but I just for some reason I don't know if it's the science of it, the measurements that scare me away. But I got to rectify that situation someday here. Uh, we're talking with Kristin Pozen from Peekaboo Cookies, and a couple more questions on the flip side. You can take another quick break for just a moment. You're watching the Talent Show. I'm Tom Alexander. Stay tuned. Wrapping things up now on the Talent Show, along with Kristin Pozen. I'm Tom Alexander here on what has been a lot of fun, a fun show for us because we get to explore the world of. Yeah, I think of Willy Wonka sometimes. The candy maker, and that whole sort of universe. And is there a? I know, like for people who love chocolate, they can go to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they can visit the factory. Is there, or do you envision a place where cookies is the main attraction where people can go and see, go to Cookie Land, so to speak, and just
Mm,
see,
I wish.
Oh,
I mean, I think the closest I've come to it was I finally made a trip to Paris in September, and I tried to go to as many bakeries as I possibly could to try as many, of their French pastries as possible. And not a lot of cookies, and their cookies over there are more like a biscuit, a harder
yeah,
biscuit.
yeah,
But there was one, oh, what was that called? It was hilarious, the name, something bastard. It was like the French bastard or something. And they had these crazy cookies that were things like Nutella in the middle, giant chocolate chunks on the outside. It was ridiculous. It was like that thick of a drop cookie that would be this thick here in America.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe we need to do something. We need to get some big investor behind you, and instead of Hershey Park, we go to Pozen Park.
Yeah.
For
Cookie
cookies.
Land.
What's that?
Cookie Land.
Cookie Land. All right, fair enough. It's Cookie Land. That's perfect. We'll get our best people on that. Uh, if there was one skill that you wish you had, what would it be?
Oh, when I decorate my cookies, it's typically a simple design. Um, because when you have to make 100 of that same shape and design, it's a lot of work, and I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So it's manual physical labor. So just being able to have just, I think, maybe a little bit more artistic skill to make them works of art, but mine taste really good. And so my clients are like, your designs are fine. They taste delicious. These cookies that are, so intricately designed do not taste good. They're hard and the flavor's not there.
Yeah,
And, really I mean, Tom, the reason why I make cookies isn't to make money. It's to make people happy. And I have clients that order from me for every single holiday, and it wouldn't be the same in their home if they didn't have my cookies, which just, you know, that touches my heart.
yeah.
And that's really why I do it. It's not, and it's a way, for me to be creative in the evening. So it's a different mindset for my daytime job. It's a lot of things.
Yeah, and knowing that, I think knowing that the joy of other people really loving these cookies, that's in a lot of ways that's a great pay, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a people pleaser. So that's my payback
I
is
got you. I got
everyone
you.
being happy.
One more question. Have you designed maybe in the past 3 months any new cookies, or is there a cookie in development, some sort of treat that you're experimenting with that, of course, we'll eventually get to try?
My sugar cookie recipe is, I don't want to mess with that. It's set. But I am looking at maybe making one that's a chocolate flavor with a little almond in it. People really seem to like that flavor.
Yeah, yeah, great. Well, we hopefully we'll walk out on the front porch someday, and there'll be a little tin or something out there with this new thing. Let's not say a word. Anyway, that's just a hope for the future. Kristin, thank you so much for taking the time out to spend with us and share your amazing and highly delicious talent here on the Talent Show. Thanks.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Kristin Pozen from the Duffy Group and Peekaboo Cookies. And I should ask you before we go, is it peekaboocookies.com?
It is. Yep. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Wonderful. There you go, folks. If you're hankering for a great cookie, look no further. It is Peekaboo Cookies. This is The Talent Show. My name's Tom Alexander. Thanks so much for listening and watching. And we'll see you again next time. So long, everybody.